When your child is unhappy, a call to prayer. There's a love we carry for our children that's unlike anything else. It's raw, relentless, and woven into every fiber of who we are. From that first cry in the delivery room, we dream of their lives unfolding like a storybook. Laughter echoing through the house, eyes wide with wonder, a steady hum of happiness. But reality doesn't always play along. Sometimes our kids stumble into seasons of sadness, a scraped knee of the soul from a playground snub, or a deeper ache they can't put into words. As parents, we're wired to feel it too. Their tears carve rivers through our hearts. I remember my son coming home one rainy afternoon, his backpack slung low, his usual chatter replaced by a silence that screamed louder than words. He'd lost a friend to a silly argument, and I could see the weight of it pressing down on his little shoulders. It's in those moments, when their light dims and we can't fix it with a Band-Aid or a cookie, that we feel the ache of helplessness. We'd move mountains if we could, but some burdens are theirs to carry. Yet, even when our hands are tied, there's a lifeline we can reach for: prayer. It's not about having all the answers or controlling the outcome. It's about kneeling in the mess and trusting something bigger. I've sat in my car after drop-off, watching other parents hustle by, and whispered a quick plea for my daughter's courage as she faced a classroom of strangers. It's not glamorous. No stained glass windows or choirs. But it's real. Prayer becomes a bridge between our love and their struggles. A way to say, I can't carry this for you, but I can carry it with you. It's a quiet rebellion against despair, a refusal to let the shadows win. And it's universal. Across towns, states, even oceans, parents are doing the same, lifting their kids up in whispered hopes. Think about the last time you saw your child hurting. Maybe it was a slammed door after a bad day, or a sigh they didn't think you heard. My neighbor once told me about her daughter who'd stopped singing around the house after a rough patch with bullies. She'd watch her girl shrink into herself and wonder where her spark went. But instead of giving in to worry, she started praying. Simple, stumbling words asking for healing. Weeks later, that little voice hummed again, faint but growing. That's the mystery of it. Prayer doesn't always shout its arrival, but it works in the quiet spaces. It's not about erasing pain. It's about planting seeds of hope in the cracks. For me, it's been a compass when I've lost my way as a mom, a reminder that love doesn't stop at my limits. So when the storms hit, and they will, let's not just stand there wringing our hands. Let's pray, because even when we can't see the sun, it's still there, warming the world behind the clouds. The power of prayer in parenting. Prayer isn't about putting on a show or waiting for the perfect moment. It's about showing up, heart open, flaws and all. It's less like a sermon and more like a conversation with an old friend who already knows your story. I started small, just 3 minutes a day, usually with a mug of coffee cooling beside me as the morning light crept in. My oldest was in high school then, tangled in a phase of moody silences and door slams that rattled the walls. I'd sit on our creaky porch swing, the world still half asleep, and whisper for patience. For me, for him, for the invisible thread between us to hold strong. I didn't have fancy words, I just asked for him to feel less alone, for his heart to find a soft place to land. Those minutes didn't wave a magic wand. Doors still slammed sometimes, but they shifted me. They carved out a space where I could breathe, where worry didn't get the last word. It's funny how something so simple can feel so steadying. Prayer's like dropping an anchor in choppy water. It doesn't calm the waves, but it keeps you from spinning out to sea. I think of it as a handoff, a way to say, God, this is too big for me, but it's not too big for you. One night, after a particularly rough argument about curfew, I sat in the dark, my coffee long gone cold, and prayed for us to see each other again, not as enemies, but as a team. The next morning, he shuffled into the kitchen, mumbled an apology, and we ate cereal in a fragile, beautiful truce. Did prayer fix it? I don't know. But it gave me the strength to keep showing up, to not let frustration build a wall between us. I've talked to other parents who found their own rhythm with it. My friend Jen swears by her car prayers, those stolen moments at stoplights when she asks for her twins to find kindness in a tough world. Another dad I know prays while he mows the lawn, the hum of the engine drowning out everything but his hopes for his daughter's broken heart. It's not about the where or the how, it's about the why. We pray because we love them fiercely, because we can't carry every burden, because we believe there's a force weaving good even when we're stuck in the weeds. And here's the quiet miracle. It changes us too. Those 3 minutes don't just lift our kids, they lift us, reminding us we're not alone in this wild, messy ride of raising humans. So grab your coffee, your quiet corner, or your steering wheel, and give it a try. It's not about perfection, it's about presence, and that's where the power hides. Understanding our children's struggles. Kids are like little enigmas, aren't they? One day they're spilling every detail of their adventures, how they conquered the monkey bars or aced a spelling test, and the next, they're locked up tight, carrying a weight you can feel but can't name. It's not always the big stuff that trips them up. Sometimes it's a sideways glance from a friend at recess, a grade that stings more than they'll admit, or just a nagging sense that they don't quite belong. My daughter had this phase in 5th grade where she'd come home and disappear into her room, sketchbook in hand, shutting out the world. I'd knock, peek in, and get a shrug. "I'm fine, Mom." But one evening, she let it slip. "I feel invisible at school." It was like a punch to the gut. Here was my bright, funny girl, fading into herself because the lunch table felt like a battlefield. Those moments remind us, their struggles aren't always loud or obvious, but they're real. My son once spent a week moping after his best buddy moved away. No tantrums, just a quiet slump, like the color had drained from his days. I wanted to swoop in, fix it, make the hurt vanish. But I've learned that's not always the goal. These aren't broken moments, they're growing ones, the rough edges where they figure out who they are. Our job isn't to bubble wrap their lives or chase away every cloud. It's to sit in the muck with them, to listen when they're ready to spill, to let them know their heart's got a safe place to land. I started leaving little notes for my daughter. "You're seen, you're enough," and slowly she'd leave her door cracked open again. It's a balancing act, isn't it? Knowing when to step in and when to step back. I think of my friend Mike, whose son got cut from the soccer team and spiraled into self-doubt. Mike didn't rush to call the coach or force a pep talk. He just sat with him, asked what it felt like, and waited. Eventually, that boy picked up a basketball instead, found his stride. That's the thing. Kids need to wrestle with the hard stuff to find their strength. Our role is less about solving and more about scaffolding, giving them a steady base to build on. I've started asking my kids, "What's one thing you're proud of today?" Even on the tough days. It's a small way to shift the lens, to remind them they're more than their struggles, and when they don't have words, I pray. For their hearts to heal, for their spirits to rise, for them to know they're never invisible to me or to God. That's where trust takes root. In the quiet, steady love that says, "I see you, and you're enough." The role of faith in healing. Faith has this gentle, stubborn way of holding us when everything else feels like it's slipping through our fingers. It's not loud or flashy, it's more like a lantern flickering on a foggy night, guiding you one step at a time. When my son started middle school, he'd come home wound up like a spring, nerves jangling from the chaos of new hallways and shifting friend groups. I'd watch him fidget at dinner, barely touching his food, and my heart would twist. So I started praying, Not big, dramatic pleas, but quiet ones in the dark after he'd gone to bed. I'd ask for the knots in his chest to loosen, for him to find one person to share a laugh with, for a spark of bravery to carry him through. Weeks later, he bounded in with a story about a kid who'd tossed him a granola bar during lunch. A tiny win, but his grin lit up the room. I smiled into my coffee, thinking, "That's you, isn't it, God?" Faith doesn't come with a guarantee that every day will be sunny. It's not a vending machine for miracles. But it hands you hope when the ground feels shaky. I think of it as a conversation, a back and forth with God, where I spill my worries and listen for peace. One winter, my daughter caught a flu that lingered, and with it came a gloom she couldn't shake. I'd pray by her bedside, asking for her body to mend and her spirit to lift. One morning, she woke up humming, weak but brighter, and I felt that quiet nudge. We're not alone in this. It's not about fixing everything. It's about trusting that healing's at work, even when it's slow. I've seen it play out in others too. My cousin prayed her way through her son's sleepless nights after a car accident shook his world. She'd sit in his doorway, whispering for calm, and months later, he started sleeping through again. Faith was her tether, keeping her steady so she could be his. For me, it's been a lifeline as a parent. When I'm out of answers, it's where I turn. I'll pray for wisdom to know when to push my kids and when to pull back, for peace to settle over us like a blanket. And here's the gift. It heals me too. Those moments of surrender smooth out my jagged edges, reminding me I don't have to carry it all. So when the days feel heavy, I lean into faith, not because it's a cure, but because it's a companion, lighting the next step and whispering, "Keep going, you're not alone." Practical ways to integrate prayer into your daily life. Prayer doesn't need to be a production. It's about finding a groove that fits your life, like a favorite song you hum without thinking. For me, mornings are sacred. The house is still, the kids are asleep, and I'll perch by the kitchen window with a steaming mug, watching the sky blush pink. I'll take a deep breath and talk to God like he's sitting across from me, about my son's math test jitters, my daughter's latest friendship drama, or my own fumbles when I lose my cool. It's raw, unpolished, just me and my coffee, and a hope that's bigger than my mess. Other days I weave it into the chaos, muttering a quick, "Help us out here," while stirring mac and cheese as the kids bicker. It's not about the setting, it's about the space it carves out in my heart. I've started pulling my kids into it too, keeping it simple and real. My youngest loves our couch pile-ups. We'll flop together, name one thing we're grateful for, like pizza night. And one thing we need, like patience for Monday mornings. It's messy, full of giggles and interruptions, but it's ours. I've also got this beat-up spiral notebook, a prayer journal, where I scribble quick thoughts. "Keep her brave today," or "Thanks for that sunset." Flipping back later, I'm floored by how those little pleas bloom into answered moments, like the day my son aced a quiz after I'd prayed for focus. It's not fancy, just a lifeline I can trace. Try tucking a verse into your routine, something like, "Be still and know that I am God," from Psalm 46 verse 10. I'll repeat it under my breath when the day's spinning out, and it's like a reset button for my soul. Gratitude's a game changer too. Thanking God for the way my daughter's laugh fills the room, or my son's goofy dance moves can flip a rough day on its head. My friend Lisa prays in her garden, hands in the dirt, asking for her teens to grow strong through their storms. Another mom I know whispers prayers at the school drop-off line, eyes on her kid's backpack as he disappears inside. Find your spot, your rhythm, and let it ground you. 3 minutes can steady your feet and lift your kids, all without fanfare. It's the smallness of it that makes it mighty. Sharing stories of transformation. Stories have this magic. They stick to our bones, don't they? They're proof that prayer isn't just wishful thinking. It's a thread that stitches lives back together. I heard about a dad whose little girl was drowning in grief after her grandma passed. Every night, he'd kneel by her bed, praying for her to feel wrapped in love despite the hole in her heart. Weeks went by, and one morning she bounced in, eyes bright, saying she'd dreamed of Grandma smiling down, waving. That dream didn't erase the loss, but it cracked open a window for joy to sneak back in. He told me later, tears in his eyes, "I think those prayers carried her there." It's not a fairy tale. It's a glimpse of something real moving in the shadows. My neighbor's got a story too. Her son was cornered by bullies in 8th grade. His confidence shredded. She'd pray over breakfast, asking for him to find his footing, for courage to rise up. Months later, he came home with a spark in his step. He'd stood up for a younger kid getting picked on, turned his pain into purpose. She swears those prayers paved the way, and I believe her. Then there's my own slice of grace. When my daughter struggled with anxiety last fall, I'd pray for calm to settle over her like a soft rain. One day, she grabbed my hand and said, "I felt okay at school today, Mom." No fireworks, just a quiet shift. And I knew it wasn't just chance. Maybe you've got a story tucked away. A time when faith bent the arc of a hard day. I think of my friend who prayed her way through her son's rebellion, clinging to hope when he'd storm out. Years later, he's the one calling her for advice, their bond stronger than ever. Sharing these moments isn't about bragging, it's about lighting a flare for someone else trudging through the dark. When I tell my kids about the times prayer pulled us through, their eyes widen. It's like handing them a map for their own rough roads. So let's swap these stories, over coffee, in texts, across fences, because they remind us we're not alone, that prayer's a current running through the ordinary, turning it holy. What's your story? It might just be the lifeline another parent needs. Encouraging resilience in our children. Prayer's a rock we lean on, but we've got to teach our kids how to stand tall when life throws punches. Resilience isn't about dodging every hit. It's about learning to roll with them, to dust off and keep going with a little more fire in the belly. My son learned that the hard way with a science fair flop. His volcano fizzled, and he wanted to quit then and there. We prayed for guts to try again, then sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by baking soda and vinegar, picking apart what went wrong. He rebuilt it, didn't win a ribbon, but strutted out proud as anything. I saw it then, the spark of a kid who'd faced failure and found he could stand up anyway. That's what we're after. A heart that bends but holds. I tell my kids all the time, life's gonna trip you up, but you've got backup. Me, your dad, God, the whole crew. We talk about flops as stepping stones, not gravestones. My daughter once forgot her lines in a school play, mortified, but we prayed for grace, then practiced in the living room until she could laugh it off. She didn't nail the next one either, but she stepped on stage anyway. Proof she was tougher than she thought. It's not about shielding them from the fall. It's about showing them they've got the muscle to climb back up. I nudge them to name what they need. Help, a break, a do-over. So they learn asking isn't weak, it's wise. My friend's son broke his arm skateboarding, and instead of babying him, she prayed for healing. Then cheered as he relearned his tricks, cast and all. He's fearless now, scars and swagger intact. That's the dance. Faith and fight together, building kids who can weather the storms. At dinner, we'll toss out questions like, what's one tough thing you beat today? Even if it's just spilling milk and not crying. It's small, but it stacks up. Prayer weaves in the hope, but our words and steady hands give them the tools. They'll stumble, heck, we all do, but with love in their corner and a whisper to the sky, they'll rise stronger every time. Conclusion. A journey of love and faith. Parenting's a wild trek, full of sunlit peaks, tangled valleys, and storms that sneak up out of nowhere. When our kids hurt, it's like a gray haze settles over everything. their slumped shoulders at breakfast, the quiet that replaces their usual chaos. We feel it deep, don't we? That ache to scoop them up and make it all better. But we're not powerless. 3 minutes of prayer, over cereal, in the car, under the stars, can shift the tide. It's not a quick fix or a spell. It's a quiet handing over, a trust that we're not steering this ship alone. I've whispered for my son's peace on nights when worry kept me up, and found my own heart lighter by morning. It's a ripple effect. Lifting them lifts us too. Across the globe, parents are in this together. Moms in Texas, dads in Tokyo, all murmuring the same hopes into the dark. I picture it like a web, threads of faith stretching out, catching the light. My friend in Ohio prays for her daughter's shyness. A stranger I met online prays for his son's health. Different stories, same heartbeat. It's humbling, knowing we're part of something vast, yet intimate. So let's keep going, sharing the times prayer broke through, holding space for the days it's still working in silence. Every word we lift up is a stitch in this tapestry of love, a promise that even the gloomiest days won't last forever. Start tonight. Grab a moment, breathe, and pray. For their courage, your patience, a glimmer of joy to peek through. Tell your stories, how faith carried you when the road buckled. Maybe it's the time your kid smiled again after weeks of clouds, or when you found calm in the chaos. These aren't just tales. They're beacons. Parenting's no sprint. It's a long, winding haul, and our kids need us steady. With prayer, with love, with faith as our compass, we'll guide them to brighter skies. And along the way, we'll find our own. After watching, remember to like, subscribe to the channel, and comment on the video. I have many good videos to share. Learn to give, and God will give peace to you and your family.